So, coming to the respiratory disturbances or disorders, we have to study about few diseases. The first one is hypoxia. Hypoxia, here you can see that it is a condition in which a part of the body or a region of the body is deprived. Deprived means not getting. A certain part of the body, maybe lungs, or maybe hand, maybe legs, or maybe brain, or any part of your body is not getting sufficient amount of blood. Sufficient amount of blood means the oxygen may not be also obtained. So if a certain part of the body is not getting enough amount of oxygen, that situation is known by the hypoxia. Hypo means low. Hypo means low oxygen. So hypoxia simply means a part of the body or a region of the body is not getting sufficient quantity or sufficient amount of oxygen. Now here you can see that we can classify hypoxia into two. One is general hypoxia and other is local hypoxia. Now generalized hypoxia means entire body is affected. For example, if you are going to a low oxygen atmosphere like a high altitude or high range mountains like Everest, etc., there the amount of atmospheric oxygen is very low. So in such a situation, we may not be able to get sufficient amount of oxygen, and that is a situation of low oxygen in the environment. Then entire body will be affected. And sometimes another case will be there, maybe due to some clot going to a brain or a leg muscle or a hand muscle, a part of the artery is blocked. And in that situation, the blood is not coming. If blood is not coming, that means oxygen is also not coming. So that situation is known by the name local hypoxia. So these are the two basic types of hypoxia. One is generalized hypoxia, and second one is the local hypoxia. Then there is another disease known by the name hypoxemia. So hypoxia differ from hypoxemia in that hypoxia refers to state in which oxygen supply is insufficient. There is insufficient amount of oxygen. Where hypoxemia refers specifically to state that low arterial oxygen supply. So these are the slightly there is some difference. In the case of hypoxemia, the oxygen in the environment may be normal, but the blood is not supplying enough amount of oxygen in the blood. That means if the sufficient quantity of RBC or hemoglobin is absent, then blood may not be able to transport enough amount of oxygen. That situation is known as hypoxemia. Though hypoxia in which there is complete deprivation. Deprivation means absence or lack. If there is complete lack of oxygen, it is referred as anoxia. A means absent. So anoxia means no oxygen. Complete absence of oxygen. So hypoxia simply means low oxygen. Anoxia means complete absence of oxygen. So this is how we are defining hypoxia as well as anoxia. Here you can find what will be the effect of hypoxia. Normally, if low oxygen is present in the atmosphere, as in the case of a mountain environment or high altitude. So if you go to Everest, they may be usually carrying oxygen cylinders because in the absence of external oxygen support, we cannot breathe normally. So there is a high altitude situation. So in such situation, there will be very low oxygen in the environment or in the atmosphere. Here you can find what are the important situations that will be taking place. One is your breathing rate will be increasing, your heart rate will be increasing, your blood vessels in your body, like on the outer surface of your body, like peripheral blood vessels which are present on arms, legs, hands and feet, etc. They will be all dilating. Because body will be undergoing lot of physiological changes. purpose is to utilize the best of the available oxygen. So that is why this kind of increased heart rate, that means to pump whatever small quantity of oxygen is available, to pump that oxygen to different regions of the body, so that maximum utilization of the very little oxygen that is available should be used. So that is the purpose, that is the effects of the hypoxia. Here you can see that. And then generalized hypoxia is occurring in people with healthy. It occurs in healthy people when they ascend. Ascend means climb to high altitude, where it causes high altitude sickness, leading to potential fatal complication like high altitude pulmonary edema and high altitude cerebral edema. So these are two situations. This high altitude pulmonary means referring to lungs. Edema means inflammation or swelling. So when we go to a high altitude area, sometimes our lungs will be swelling, and that is known as a pulmonary edema, high altitude pulmonary edema. Similarly, there is in the brain vessels or the brain blood vessels in the brain also, there can be a swelling. Then we call it as cerebral edema. Edema, wherever you use the term edema, it simply means inflammation or swelling. That is the meaning of the word edema. Then hypoxia also occurs in healthy individuals when breathing mixtures of gases with a low oxygen content. For example, when you are going underwater, for example, while diving underwater, we are using what is called an oxygen cylinder or a rebreather situation. And that situation also sometimes is hypoxia occurs. So hypoxia, that is when we are breathing a mixture of oxygen present in an oxygen cylinder while going underwater. Sometimes the same oxygen will be again recirculated. So after some time, for example, after 1 hour or 2 hours, the carbon dioxide content in the oxygen cylinder may increase. So instead of 100%, instead of nearly 100% oxygen, after 1 hour it will be reducing slowly to sometimes 70% or 60% of the needed oxygen. So that situation can happen in also hypoxia. Then hypoxia is also a serious consequence of preterm birth. What is preterm birth? Normally our pregnancy period is 9 months and 10 days or 280 days. If a child is born before that day, that number of days, we call it as premature birth or preterm birth. So in such a situation, what the main problem is that the child, the lungs of the child may not have developed completely, because there is one problem is that normally the entire body might have developed and formed, but lungs is the last part to develop in a child. So if a child is born before 10 months, normally what happens is that his or her lungs may not be having in a complete, may not have reached the complete development, so that it won't be able to take atmospheric oxygen. So that is the problem of the preterm birth. The main cause for this lungs of the human fetus are, the last organ to develop during pregnancy. So during the preterm birth also, you might have noticed that doctors are placing their children in a small ventilator, because the ventilator will be supplying oxygen from through tube, because the lungs cannot breathe oxygen. The child may not be able to breathe or inspire properly, so the oxygen has to be supplied from an external device, and that is known by the ventilator. So these are some of the problems that we are finding in the case of hypoxia. Remember that there are two types of hypoxia, local and generalized. Normally we are finding hypoxia when people are going to high altitude or people are diving under the sea. And third situation is the preterm birth, premature childbirth. These are the three normal situations where hypoxia is present. And another is asphyxia. What is asphyxia? Is a severely deficient supply of oxygen that arises from abnormal breathing. So it's a slight difference only. It's a severely deficient supply of oxygen to the body that arises from abnormal breathing. An example of asphyxia is choking, just like somebody is holding your leg or doing it hanging and other types of asphyxia is generally taking place. So that was generalized asphyxia because the trachea will be blocked. And if trachea is blocked, the lungs may not be able to get sufficient amount of oxygen. And there are many circumstances that induce asphyxia, all of which characterized by an inability of the individual to acquire sufficient oxygen through breathing. So basically, asphyxia means there may be sufficient oxygen in the atmosphere, but your body may not be able to take that oxygen properly. That is why it is known as asphyxia. Now, asphyxia can also cause coma. You might have heard about the term coma. That is, person is unconscious, not knowing anything, and that situation is known as coma. And finally, that will be leading to death because our brain is having a problem. If brain cells are not getting oxygen for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the brain cells will die. So that is the problem of them. So after 5 or 10 minutes, if your brain cells are not able to get sufficient oxygen, they start dying. So this is the problem of the brain cells. So that is why after some time coma is coming and that will be followed by the death. So that is the case in this asphyxia. And situation that cause asphyxia include constriction or obstruction of airways. Any kind of obstruction on your airways like trachea can result in this kind of asphyxia. Then from asthma. Asthma is one situation that is leading to asphyxia. Then laryngospasm or simply any blockage from presence of foreign material. Sometimes, especially during childhood, many children will be taking small ball like thing, and if they are getting blocked at your trachea and the throat, the child may not be able to breathe anything. So during this situation also asphyxia can take place. Then if you are in an environment where oxygen is not readily available, as it is underwater. So when what happens when we go under below water is that our body may not be able to take oxygen. In a very low oxygen, for example, or if you enter in a vacuum tube or in a vacuum room, still your body may not be able to get oxygen. So wherever oxygen is totally absent, the asphyxia can come. So normally it is coming due to some kind of blockage of the air passage like trachea. That is the most common type of asphyxia, or because of some diseases like asthma. So in case of asthma also we may not be able to breathe properly. I will show you what happens in the case of asthma. See here you can see that this is how asthma will be blocking. See this is the problem in the case of asthma. So normally this is the situation. If in an asthmatic patient, this will be the normal situation. So this is the normal situation. If during the time of asthma your air passage will be reduced. Here this is another picture which clearly shows. So this is a normal bronchiole. So if there is asthma, see the diameter of the air passage inside will be reduced. That is, you are breathing, but very little air is finally reaching. Here, this is also another one. So this is how the normal air tube or bronchioles and trachea will be appearing. When there is asthma, the diameter of that air hole will be become very small, so that enough amount of oxygen may not be reaching the lungs. That is why people are trying hard to breathe. So that is the problem in the case of asthma. Then there is another situation which we call as a laryngospasm. I will to show regarding laryngospasm. See, this is another situation. That is, a larynx is this part of the body. For example, here we can find a larynx, and if this passage is blocked, then it is known as a laryngospasm. This is known as a laryngospasm. So here also you can see another picture how the laryngospasm can cause their passage obstacles. So this is how the normal vocal cords. See, this is another picture. So in all these situations, this is the normal situation. Now, if you are suffering from laryngospasm, your body may not be able to get sufficient amount of oxygen to the lungs. So these are the problem with the laryngospasm as well as asthma. So these are the different situations which are leading to the problem of asphyxia. So asphyxia is means your body or your lungs or body is not able to get sufficient amount of oxygen. So that is asphyxia. And regarding other diseases, we will discuss in next class.